again to another exciting episode of Dada Next Door. So if you're new here, Dada Next Door is a show where we showcase the lives of phenomenal women doing phenomenal things in our societies today to impact social change. And they're doing this in their own exceptional ways, but mostly they're using art. So today we are actually joined by one exceptional woman. Her name is NAJMA. She's exceptional. She's an author. She's a fashionista. She's jovial. I think we're going to have a good show. How are you feeling, Najma?
I'm feeling very good.
I know.
Are we supposed to whisper over here?
No, it's okay. We just have a good time.
Thank
Actually,
you.
there's something that Najma says, and I want to quote. I want us to start the show with this. There's something she says that there's a better story than that of a repenting slave than a forgiving rab. So what is that, Najma?
Najma Saleh. People call me Drops of Melanin. I'm a spoken word artist and a poet and a writer and a fashionista, as she said. Quote unquote, I just enjoy dressing up per se.
Okay.
So
And you do it very nicely, by the way.
thank you.
People
I'm
should check you
humbled.
out.
Thank
Okay.
you. So to answer, that quote basically means we as human beings, we are constant sinners and things like that. So as long as we are ready to go back to God, we are always, like, God is always there to listen to us. So that was basically a part of a poem in my book. So
Did I mention that she's an author?
Oh,
So she's
yes.
also an author. and there's something interesting about your art, and maybe you'll tell us more, because we really want to know who's this Najma. What are you
Sure.
advocating for? I know you work with organizations like World Vision.
yeah.
I know you work with organizations like UN. So we want to know all this, but before that, at least, where were you born? How many are you?
Ooh, interesting. So I was born in
Are you
Kenya.
Kenyan?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm Kenyan of Somali origin.
All
So
right.
I don't know how people always have that argument of Somali, Kenyan, Somali.
We're all one anyway. at the
Yeah,
end
so
of the
I
day.
was born in Kenya of Somali origin.
Okay.
I am second last born.
Mm-hmm.
Family of 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Girls
I
only?
guess no.
You're
We
the only
are-
girl?
No, we are 4 boys, 4 girls.
So where did your journey begin? Did it start when you were quite young, or tell us how did Najma Drops of Melanin begin?
Okay, I started writing very quite young. I was into theater and all of these things since primary school. But then performing poetry per se and writing started when I joined university.
Okay.
I went to Machakos University,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a group called Poetry Rush Hour. So I was one of those people who would, when I'm in the dorm, I will cook, recite poetry, do all of
Nice.
these things. So there was a girl who we shared the same dormitory. She was called Rose. She's like, "Oh my God, you're so good at this. By the way, I was a first year. I didn't know anything about this. I just did poetry for myself and writing for my own, because it made me feel some type of way. And it was a way to escape things that were going on in my life and stuff. So I used poetry and writing more as an escapism.
Okay. So
yeah.
in a sentence, if I was to give you in a sentence, how would you describe your poetry in a sentence?
I would say I am mostly advocating for women and things that are going around, affecting youth and stuff. So yeah, mostly women, and my work is very, very much influenced by minority group, because I am a woman, I am Somali, I am Muslim, so I try to very much make that evident.
Yeah, and we were actually talking about that, because the fact that also religion really affects things to do with entertainment, because at the end of the day, poetry is entertainment, right?
That's true.
So when was the first time you stood in a podium and recited poem?
Actually, when that girl Rose, she told me, "Oh,
So
by
in
the
first
way,
year.
that was first year in
Si tukienda
uni."
funky una recite poem.
That was high school.
Okay.
High school stories are funky tuliacha high school. Tuko uni.
We had funkies first years or something.
Oh, really? Interesting. Sikumbuki hiyo part nika ilinipita.
All right. So that's the first time you did poetry.
Yes, the same day that girl asked me, she told me, by the way, they were having a poetry show, the first big poetry show in school, about it was a law to do with law. There was a judge, and then there was a case about a girl, I don't know, who was raped and killed. And then they told me, "You're gonna come as a surprise performer." she's talking to me at around maybe 11, 12 in the morning. You're gonna come in as a surprise performer from the stage, so nobody knows that you're going to perform. You're just gonna come from the audience. We're gonna give you a mic and everything. I'm like, I made my lines the same day. I had to put them in my head the same day. So after that, I feel like that was the beginning. After that, everyone was like, oh, who is that? Like I didn't even know I could do poetry. Like I could stand in and perform or something.
Because I would actually describe your poetry as very natural. Is it influenced by your family? Do you have maybe your siblings who are poets or musicians, or just
actually Somalia is known as a land of poets.
Okay.
So it's called Somalia, the land of poets. So I feel like one way or the other, those genes have influenced
your
me.
Ancestors, in short.
Yes, basically. But yeah, a lot of our culture is influenced by poetry.
Okay.
A lot of our music and it very much stems from poetry.
I know you talk about women a lot and advocating for their rights, but other than that, what do you like describing? Are you the type of poet who describes love, weather? Because apparently you have...
I don't really do love that much. I would love to, because I think like I'm now a woman tapping into that love life or whatever. But yeah, I haven't grown around I didn't mention this, but I have grown up being an orphan, so, and I was raised mainly by my grandmother and the women around me, so I mostly learned things from different women around my life. So one way or the other, those are the things that I'm very close to. I talk about my experiences with life and stuff, being a youth, being a woman, but yeah.
And I'm so sure wherever they are, they're really proud of you, because you're really representing women
Thank
out
you.
here. Hata mimi unafoni represent.
Represent
one way or another.
High key.
All right. So
Very
so for you, give us like a visual. Let's have a visual of your creative process. So how do you come up with a poem? Is it influenced by something you see, or just tell us your creative process?
My creative process is mostly, there's something in Islam that is called wahy. This is very absurd, but I normally equate it to that, because I don't think it doesn't come very naturally if I look at something and say, oh, like if someone tells me, write about this, I have to do research and all of those things.
Okay.
It doesn't come from an authentic place. I feel like it's more words just arrive to me. Sometimes I wake up at 3 in the morning, I have a whole story. Like I need to open my eyes, write it down, or if I wake up in the morning, I'll regret not waking up and writing it, because I'll not remember anything.
Okay.
Yeah, so most of the times it arrives to me. I don't know how to put it.
Is that still the same process that you use when you're writing your book? But then you have you should hook us up with this book, Kabisa.
I should, guys.
Because this is such an interesting book. Maybe you can tell us about it, kidogo.
Of course. I have a poetry collection called Her Escapades, and I feel like I wrote this book at the lowest of the lowest point in my life. So I had to quit uni, and I became very depressed, and I was hospitalized for a few months, and then I was like, you know what? I need to sit down and maybe translate whatever I am feeling and whatever is going on in my life into words. And I wrote a book, actually, not even this poetry anthology that I have right now. It was a 156 novel.
Words.
Yeah, but then just before production, I felt I was not ready for the world to see that side of me and hear the things that were going on in my mind. So I translated every chapter into a poem. So, and then threw in there things that are gonna distract from the main. But yeah, that is basically my story into poetry. It's actually, if you read the synopsis and things like that, the titles are in a chronological order. It's like a beginning of something. You can see, there's a train.
So, okay, the fact that you write, for you have a creative process. I mean, you have to research, you have to think about it. Have you ever been in a position where maybe you're performing and then lines, kaboom?
Oh, this
and then
is
you
the
have to
thing,
like
though.
really think about very fast about a rhyming word. Or
This is the thing. over time, I have understood and known my stories. So the secret to having a easy performance process and stuff is knowing your story.
Okay.
Nikikuja, if I come on the stage and tell you guys a story, even if I cook it, you guys are gonna buy it. Nobody knows the
That is
story
true.
except me. So that has really helped me with like poetry and stuff, because I know my stories very well, and I take time to do rehearsals and things like that. So fortunately, I thank God that has never happened where I have been like, oh, I'm sorry guys, I've forgotten lines. No, I might be nervous here and there and think like, oh, but it always comes back to me.
So what are actually your feeders to your poetry? What are your feeders?
I would say youth mostly, like ages between let's just say from teenager to adult, to people who are like, I have been in audiences where old people have cried to my poetry, so I'm like, oh, so yeah.
And all this started how many years ago? 7 years ago?
Yes.
7 years. And how would you describe the
7
journey?
years ago was the first time I was on stage.
How would you describe the journey so far?
I would say very blissful.
Okay.
I feel very fortunate and very grateful, because it's all God's mercy. I wouldn't like have done it on my own. And also the people and spaces that have given me the opportunity to grow into the person that I am today. So yeah, really thankful.
And the fact that most of your poetry or most of your words are normally based, like I said earlier, mainly based on women, the minority group.
Yeah.
Do you think that was also influenced by the fact that maybe you grew up as an orphan and you felt like a minority?
Oh, 100%.
Or is it just because you felt like, you know what, I can speak for somebody? Or I just want to know, did it come from an...
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
But also, I wouldn't say an orphan per se. I
Because you're
honestly
surrounded
have
with
never
love.
considered myself an orphan, because I have a great mother who has raised me. I have great siblings. I have all of this love around me. So the orphan part has never really felt. But I've always, like, at the back of my mind, any project to do with orphans and things like that, like, brings that spark to me. But I've never really felt like an orphan. I would say, though, most of it comes from seeing women around me get their shit together even when men are not there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so most of it is like, you have to be strong. Like, there is no chance of failing in life. There is no chance of, you're constantly meant to be great.
So how did you and how did you, coming from a minority group, two, coming from a cultural can I say differentiational groups?
Yeah.
Also three, I don't know, you looking different, you don't look like
Yeah,
Kenyan,
definitely, yeah.
you having to wear a hijab and all that. Has it affected your poetry journey in one way or another?
100% it has,
100.
because at the beginning I had to be in very many. First of all, before I joined poetry, I was very an academia person. I was like, without books, like, this is my way to life. Like, I'm such a book person.
Bookworm.
Like I'm gonna study Nikokomat in a car, in whatever. I'm always gonna have a book. I mean, I still believe in that, but I was more of an academia. Like, I need to have that academic validation.
You and me both.
Yeah. But then coming into art and poetry and all of these things, I eased a bit on that side, and I'm more of like, oh, I have this creative mind and enthusiasm. So, yeah, in a way.
And I'm very impressed, actually. I'm
Thank
super.
you.
I'm actually lost. I thought I'd look at you and be like, you know what, question after question after question. But now I'm looking at you, I'm like, I'm bambazzled. You're such a tiny
Thank
girl doing
you.
like so much.
I
and like so
know.
big.
I know, yeah. Also, to answer your question on culture and things like that, I have very much, from such a young age, grew in spaces where I was a smart kid, kinda. And I had to be in very many spaces where I was the only girl, the only woman, the only so the only Muslim. So I had to make sure that I understand these spaces I was trying to create spaces for more Muslim girls like me, or more Somali people who feel like these spaces are not accessible, like, just because you're Somali, just because you're like there is much bigger world outside me wearing hijab. It doesn't like there's no difference between me and you. If we are in a room, I make sure my voice is heard and I have something to say. So yeah, in a way, it has played a big role in me becoming an artist, because I'm like, there's no chance to I can stop being a poet now. No, I have so many people who are looking at me at this point to be like, oh,
you're a sense of hope.
I'm like, I can just give no, I can't do that.
So do you remember your pieces? Like, if I asked you right now to just give me a paragraph, can you remember your pieces?
So many.
Oh my
what
goodness.
do you mean? Can I remember? That's my whole I do this for a living, babes. I do this for a living.
All right, so maybe I would actually want to request you. Maybe you can give me a paragraph before we go on a break.
Yeah,
and then after we come to the break, I want you to tell me how you started with World Vision. How are you recognized by UN? And what is the impact that you're doing to the Somali ladies down there? Because that is so, it's out of this world.
Yeah.
So maybe you can give us a paragraph before we go on a break.
I would love that.
Okay, fine.
So, maybe I'm trying to think, what should I tell you guys? Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys, this poem is about the war that is going on in Somalia, and I had to like tap in my voice and feel like
nice.
So this is called The Echoes of My People. I'm trying to stay silent and listen to the sounds of my surroundings. Instead of keeping silent because of war, I am silent for war. I'm silent in respect of the cadavers lying next to me. I'm silent to listen to the next tantrum of bomb. Does it affect my people, one of our own? Or maybe I'm silent for the things I've known. Or I am silencing these voices in my head that keep on going on and on. Mohammed Abdelkader, 24 years old. I've survived a bullet through my hip bone, trying to serve 12 children who were just born. Lul Hassan, Magaas Balay, they call me by that name. Afar Arur Ayan Sodale. I gave birth to 4 children, 3 gunned down during the war. One is my new baby born who couldn't survive after her bones which almost intertwined. 2 weeks ago, we found my husband's dead body. It is so sad that I wasn't even allowed to say goodbye. By now, 12-year-old Abdurrahman is across the border, trying to flee, trying to be free, trying to change the cause of his own death. They say better to die a martyr than to die a free coward. These are the stories of my grandmother on her deathbed, on her last breath, trying to tell me how she managed to cross over the Lido Ocean. By then, a 20-year-old pregnant teenager trying to draw the future for her child by the white sands on the Lido beach, only for the white supremacy to wipe off her people and leave them helpless. Help, help, please. She kept on pleading as if she's not the same black woman who raises her hand every time a calamity befalls her people and shouts, Allah hogaye, that kana mahaku da'i. Oh God, what is happening to my people? Oh God, what is happening to my people? She smiles, and she's not sure if she's allowed after all the souls that went in demise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. To him we belong, and to him we shall return. See me? I'm the 3rd generation. Maybe not the 3rd success, but I'm the 3rd proof. After every hardship comes ease. So I'm here to tell you, the people from my place, we don't die.
Woo!
Thank you.
Welcome back again to Dada Next Door. I'm your host, Nina McKenna. And before we did the break, we had a poem from NAJMA, and she was talking about challenges they face in Somaliland. And I'm just quite bamboozled, for lack of a better word, bamboozled. Is Somaliland that bad, NAJMA?
To be honest, I feel like it's not really that bad, because people are living normal like everybody else. Somalia is such a beautiful country and very clean, by the way. The only thing is that we can't outlook and overlook the war that is going on. So it's like people have learned to live within it. And for example, if I'm sitting here and the next building is being bombed, it's not their problem that you are there. So that's the challenges. If their target audience is where you are, which again, Somalia is a small space and everybody is everywhere. So if you're the target and you're there, there's nothing we can do about it. At the end of the day, it's a land that a lot of damage has gone over the years, and we are in the process of rebuilding it. We'll get back there.
Most definitely, that's for sure. But just like any other listener who's a little bit interested with Somaliland, just because that's what you talk mostly about, and that's the community you represent. How would you say the impact of the war? What is the impact? Who are mostly hit? Are they the children, the younger generation, or the older generation?
Of course, I would mostly say it's women and children, because again, men are considered to be protectors of the community, and they're given access to all of these things, including guns, including whatever. Like, everyone there works with a gun. Small children, they handle guns. Yeah, like having a gun is a normal thing. So I feel like most people, personally, no. Yeah, but it's a very normal thing. Like, you small kids, 9, 10, are holding guns and working, like, because at the end of the day, you have to understand that's a war zone. You know, like, that's their way of life.
What is normally the problem with that? Okay, what is normally the cause of war? Is it religion? Is it government?
Most
is it
of
political?
Most of the time, it's really political.
Okay, so it doesn't affect. Okay.
No, it's not religion, because everybody in Somalia is Muslim. You cannot say it's religion one way or the other. So most of it is, they use religion, like the people that, I don't want to get into it so much because it's not my area of expertise.
Okay.
But most of the political people are using religion as a background. Like, you know, when you want to do something wrong, there is an access point that you're looking for. So they use religion as the access point. But everybody in Somalia is Muslim, so I wouldn't say that's the problem. I feel like the root problem is political.
The political.
Yes, and also we have a lot of clan and cultural differences. Yes, there's so many. This is this clan and this is this clan. So most of the problems, because you see how when you come to Kenya, there's the majority. Like when someone is the president or the leader, they come from a certain background, and people are really into that. We really say, oh, there's no like ukabila. What do you say ukabila in English?
Tribalism.
Tribalism, yes. So there's so much tribalism in Somalia. So much. Because yes, everybody is Somali, but once you get into it, there's so many small groups.
I was actually shocked the other day when I was reading some documentaries about Somali, and they were saying that actually Islam, just like Christianity, Islam has like, can I call them denominations?
Yeah.
I always thought that Islam is like Islam, like moja too.
No,
so I was also shocked, and that could also be an issue.
Yes, that's exactly.
But if I was to ask you, can you picture a Somali that you've always wanted, or a Somali that you've always envisioned? Can you?
Oh yes, I feel like that's one way or the other the Somalia that we are trying to build back right now. Even when it comes to art, they've recently opened one of the biggest museums in East Africa.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was just launched like a month or two ago. But yeah, I feel like we are constantly in the process of building back, and also I feel like root problems are the older generation, because they're stuck in the old ways. They're not like accepting that we are developing and all of these new things. So we are trying to make change with that, and also showing the older generation that, see, this new thing is not really bad. It's gonna help us as a community and as a country in general. So yeah.
You know, the fact when I was told that I'll actually be interviewing today, and I was like, they're actually Muslim poets. I was like, oh my god, that's interesting. The fact that you guys don't incorporate music, you don't incorporate. So I was like, oh my, I really wanted to know, is it hard? Can you stand in front? Okay, now this is interesting. So when you're performing, do you perform in front of gents?
Yeah, because I do. 100%.
100%?
Yeah. I have been... In 2019, I did over 150 performances on stages. And
nice.
I don't think, of course, you can't always get a female audience or whatever, and people who are doing all of these things. So I feel like that really kick-started my career in poetry and stuff.
So it's basically people like you that are actually bringing out the modern Somali, where we are cutting off the cultural beliefs and all that.
But also I don't think it's a modern Somali, because poetry has been, there is no Somali without poetry. If you really look into it.
But you're performing in front of men.
Yeah,
you know?
Even before they were performing in front of men. It's just that, let me tell you the difference is, Somali as a culture is everything that I am doing right now. They introduced religion, and now, see, I told you there's an access point. So now everybody's like, oh, people if you see the traditional Somali clothing, it's called guntino. You tie it like the Indian sari. You see the way the arms are out, the hair is out. If you look at traditional photos of Somalia, women didn't even used to wear headscarves, head wraps, and all of this. But it's because we now learned the religion.
Okay.
You understand? So,
sense,
yes, it's like Christianity now.
I get it.
Yeah, it's basically.
But I'm yet to see a Christian Somali. Honestly, I've never seen one.
There are actually in
never seen
Isili, to be fair. It's not a big thing, because there are people who have converted when they're adults and stuff, and like they've gone to live maybe in another life and they can't keep up with. It's really hard when you're in between non-Muslims and trying to uphold your religion. It's really, really hard. You really have to have a strong mind and strong will to go. But yeah, so there are actually.
And now, putting all that aside, I mean, when did you get the platform to work with World Vision and UN?
Okay, I feel like my poetry journey started paying me per se, and like I started making money towards all of this. Maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, and this is because I don't know. They say good work sells itself. I don't want to blow my own horn, but like I feel like I did the work, and it was part where I felt appreciated in a way.
What did the work entail?
So the work entailed a lot of showing up even when you don't have to.
Okay.
Yes. So I've done. I've shown up for my community and for my people. I have talked about refugees and talked about minorities and talked about women, and I constantly get asked or like requested to do these events and all of that. So over time, I feel like when my career really did its thing and I started seeing, oh, okay, like now I'm making good money. I work 9 to 5, guys. I have a career outside poetry.
Nice.
Yes.
But I wanted also to ask you that, but fine.
Yeah.
You can't survive with just poetry, Ama.
You can.
People do
In
that.
my opinion, you can. I will tell you that. I know it's something very untraditional, and I know so many people from my Instagram assume I'm doing it for fun, which I am. I enjoy doing it, and I do it for fun because I never want to forget the reason as to why I started doing poetry, just because I started making money from it. But yeah, last year, but when we're in 2023, 2022, end of 2021, I got a friend who called me, and they're like, hey, there's an organization that they're looking for someone, blah, 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 and we're gonna send you the link to apply. I feel like they were looking for diversity, in a way, so I was automatically chosen from that whole process. So I went to do a residency. I didn't know what are residencies, anything to do with that. So I went to do a residency.
What is a residency?
An art residency is where we bring different artists or different people of different disciplines together in a certain roof or whatever, and force collaborations.
Okay.
And these people come up with a piece of work and like maybe a performance art or something like that. So I went for a residency in Tafaria by Art Exchange Project. That's where I met Liboy. And so from that I feel like it was a big organization, Art Exchange. So from Art Exchange is where we did good job. Everybody did a good job. We did one big event in Alchemist which had over 500 attendees, including people from different countries. And these artists were from like maybe 9-10 countries, like within Africa and Europe. Yeah,
that's huge.
Within Africa and Europe. So we did an event and it was a success. I feel like from there everybody knew, this is Drops of Melanin, yeah. So there was also artists of different disciplines, so it wasn't like me alone. I feel like because I was the only poet, there was one more, but because I was the only poet of my kind,
Okay.
it was very like everyone was very fascinated with that idea. So from there, that's how everybody knew. Oh, Drops of Melanin.
That was later. I mean, that was now after when your leaves have sprouted and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But what were your roots? Do you go to a community? You
Oh,
you
yeah,
talk to
when-
them, or I just want to know how you do it.
Yeah,
the
when
process.
I started, I told you guys I went to Machakos University. So every Thursday at Machakos University, they used to have a thing called Poetry Rush Hour. I attended from that day that I performed there. I attended that Poetry Rush Hour for the next 3 hours every Thursday. Sick or alive, I attended that. So I feel like that was my community. That's where I like started. And then I had to come to Nairobi. Now I was like, what is equivalent to Poetry Rush Hour that I can still maintain doing in Nairobi? So I started going to Poetry After Lunch, Kenya National Theatre, every Thursday for maybe a year before I was like, you know what, I can now start growing as an artist. I feel like I've based that on, yeah. And then I did my first ever red carpet, 2019 probably, which was Somali Glamour Awards. I was the first poet to ever perform in a Glamour Award or a red carpet event, so that was
It was really huge.
Yes, that was really...
And you looked really stunning.
Thank you. That was
saw it.
really, really huge because there was politicians and there was all of these prominent people in the Somali community. So that was really a big thing because they saw another way of like telling our stories and having access to the youth. You know, there was also a very big there's a very big gap between the old age and the new modern age or whatever, like kids are. So that's really filled in, like how do we meet in the middle? So yeah.
And do you think you've accomplished that, you as Drops of Melanin? You think you've accomplished the gap? You've shortened the gap between the older generation and the younger the older and the younger generation?
I will say 50-50 because my main reason was not really to cap the gap, but my main reason was creating the space to enable other, because I cannot do it on my own. I cannot say that, oh, I have done this, like I've done my part. No, I need to make that space accessible for other poets and other Muslims and other Somalis to feel like, you know, oh, she has done it. So that place is ours. We can also tap into it. That's what I'm always looking forward to. Like, I have reached this particular space in my career and in my poetry, in my artwork. How can the people that are coming behind? Because if I get there now, what's the point? I have gotten there.
So what?
So I always want to make sure that these spaces are accessible for the people who have started after me or are looking into it. So, yeah.
Do you sometimes get calls like, hey, Najma, my name is Nina, and I want to start poetry. How do I start?
Every other day, other day that goes by, I at least have 2 Instagram DMs. Like, hey, I'm interested. You're doing so well. How do I get into this? And how do I get into that? So, yeah.
So what is your answer?
My answer is, let me tell you guys, I will say this and I will repeat this every day. One thing is, work on your craft. Like, you want to be a writer, you want to be a poet, you want to be a painter, work on your craft. Like, always look forward to ways on improving your craft. You know, like, wake up today, write 2 lines. Wake up today, you don't feel like writing, listen to people who are doing the things that you're doing. Do your research, like that small step. Attend these poetry events, you know, that's gonna give you motivation. Like, what are these people doing? I feel like I can be that, you know. So small steps towards like perfecting your craft. I feel like you can say, oh, I want to get to where you are, but I feel like there's so much work that needs to be done in between me starting poetry and me becoming the person that I am today and being in a position to ask people for money. Like, you're gonna call me somewhere, this is my red card, you know, oh, I have a red card. But yeah,
Nice.
to get to that space of where like someone is gonna call you or someone wants to collaborate, I'm like, okay, like, I feel like I have made the work to deserve that appreciation. So to get to that space, you need to constantly, and I don't think I have made it yet. I feel like I'm still in the process of always making sure what is the next step, like what is another accessible space for the people like me, or to tell my stories. Like my stories have not been told to everybody yet. Has everybody ever had all the poems that I've written? No. So there's always something to be done. So yeah, I will say if you are starting out, work on your craft, access these spaces. But these spaces are so much important. Accessible. The way people think, oh, like, how do I take flights to go do poetry? How do I do this? When I tell you, I have this group every day when I wake up, I have at least 5 advertisement of residencies and workshop and all of these grants and all of these things. I will share on my Instagram. Can you guys go follow me and DM me or something? I'll share the link to our WhatsApp group that is always sharing. Or if you want to get a shortcut to that, you can go follow Liminal Spaces on Instagram and request for a link.
And do you feel you as an, okay, I'd want to call you prominent, because that's the only thing that you're gonna be. You as a very prominent poet, would you say that you've gotten support, like enough support from maybe your group? The one, they normally say that a prophet is not wanted in his hometown, right?
Yeah.
So do you think you get enough support from where you come from, or you just get support from? Just tell us, who's your best or the most supportive person or supportive group that you've come across?
Let's start with supportive person. I feel like the first day, I have a best friend who is called Yusuf. That is one person that has attended from the first day I was performing poetry. Remember when I told you my first poetry, they told me like 11 and then I performed that night. I told my best friend and he took a car from Nairobi to Machakos just Amazing. For that. So from that day until
Shout
today.
Out to Yusuf.
Shout out to Yusuf. He's a presenter for KBC.
Oh,
you guys
nice.
will see him. That will be great. But yeah, he's also going to be the MC for my next event. But yeah, from that first day until today, he's never missed one of my events. So I feel like that is one of the people that I will consider. Also, this being a very untraditional route to take as a Somali girl, it was not easy to convince my family this is a thing. So I always had to have a backup plan, like
So what is
poetry.
your backup? What is your backup plan?
Oh,
do you have a backup
guys,
plan?
I am a lawyer. I work in a law firm. I have been working for the past 5.5 years.
Oh, that's why you incorporate your art. But then when you get to check her pieces, they're so detailed in terms of constitutional wise, or let me just say, you just feel that this person went to school.
I'm not dumb, guys. Poets are not dumb. They are very school people. Please.
I didn't say they're dumb, but you can feel there's a touch of exactly, you know what you're talking about. So now that makes a lot of sense. Do you like law? What type of a lawyer are you?
Mostly corporate law and stuff, and I'm also not a practicing lawyer. Okay. I'm just an executive.
You have a license?
Manager. No.
Oh, I wish I had a license. You'll have actually been the D&D lawyer, you know.
Ooh, and you guys can still come to me. I have a law firm. You can come. Come.
And I also want to tell you the fact, I know there's so many people that are trying to support you, whether knowingly or unknowingly, because 100%. When you perform on the stage, maybe there's somebody who says, God bless NAJMA. God bless NAJMA for. So there's so many people who are supporting you. And I also want to tell you that Dada Next Door is also here to support you further on your craft, support you further on your art. I know you have a show, right? So tell us more about that, because we're gonna pull up.
You better pull up, guys, pull up. I have a show. So I was raised by my grandmother for the most part of my young adult life. So I lost my grandmother when I was about 11, 12. And every memory or every type of thing that I'm trying to do in my life, I will always sit and think, what would my grandmother say in this situation? So
isn't that scary?
Scary to
every time when you want to do something, you think,
how will she perceive me? Yeah, it is scary, but also I feel like I wouldn't be who I am without her. One, and second, I wouldn't even be half the woman that she was to me and my siblings. So so the poetry event is called Unmailed Letters to My Ayeyo. This Ayeyo means grandmother in Somali. So and the show is gonna be on 14th of October at Cheche Books and Cafe. And yeah, the tickets go for 2,000 Kenya shillings. You can call me anytime. But yeah, all the posters and details on my Instagram. So I'm paying homage to my grandmother. And also, did I mention that's gonna be my last show in Nairobi for a while?
Where are you going?
I'm kind of moving to try life somewhere else.
Where is that?
Sintawambia, munifuate Instagram. Nikimove mutajua.
Ni kwa sababu tunataka kwenda na wewe.
Msijali munifuate Instagram, nitawapeleka.
So give us your handle then.
Oh, my handle is Drops of Melanin everywhere. TikTok, Instagram. I have a YouTube that I'm very reluctant with, but yeah, Twitter, Drops of Melanin everywhere.
You know, I'm actually very honored that you came here the show. I didn't expect you're like, are you 4'5"? What's your height size?
Guys, I am 5'2" with an attitude of a 6'10" man.
For real, that's for sure. That's for sure. And I'm so happy that you came. And
thank you,
continue doing what you're doing. Sometimes
Sana.
I tell like anybody that I meet, sometimes you don't know how much impact you have, or you don't know whatever you're doing until one day, like 10, 50, 100 years later, you come to realize, by the way, there's something that you're actually doing, and we can actually feel your impact. So continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys also for creating this space for women. It's a really big step. It's a very commendable step, because it's not easy to go anywhere and feel like, oh, I'm a woman and this space is for me. There are not hard, so many, very, very hard. But and then my girlfriend flowers. And
you like flowers, by the way.
I love flowers.
Tell them you love flowers.
You guys bring me flowers on 14th.
You had her bring up flowers. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Dada Next Door. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for giving us your time. And just like she said, let's just support each other. The basic things you should always remember, that whichever craft you're doing, whatever you're doing, just continue doing it. You never know who's gonna listen. You never know who's gonna see. You don't even know the impact that you have. But at the end of the day, just keep doing you, keep pushing, and keep waiting for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.